Just make sure everything's good to go. All right. YouTube looks good. And there we go with X. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm showing up on the side. Okay. That's good. All right, welcome everybody. Let me just get the right screens up. All right, I think everything's looking good. Welcome. I don't know how many people are in here right now. Doesn't look like, looks like what, 11 of you? But, hey, welcome. It's a beautiful Sunday. It's, snowing right now in Brooklyn, and, it's supposedly supposed to blizzard. Uh, Supposedly it's supposed to be like one of the biggest blizzards that we've had in a while, so, we'll wait and see. But, welcome everybody. Crazy Tale. How many butts have I farmed? It's a lot. It's a lot. Um, is this bullish for GME? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what catalyst you're specifically talking about, but whatever it is for right now, yeah, we're very bullish. Magic Box, how you doing, my dude? Crazy Tail, why? You already know the answer. More or less this 69. You already know. You already know. Nightmare Zerathos, what's good with you, my man? Oh yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for takeoff. Shift key, thank you very much. Lukenbacher, how you doing, my dude? I would say the next month is going to be very good. And then it's going to be interesting after this T plus 35 finishes. Yeah. Rotund calzone. Yeah, I'm hungry for a calzone now. Calzones are underrated. Very underrated. There's just something about a pizza that's been enclosed. Yeah. Rev, how you doing, my dude? Welcome, welcome. But yeah, let's get started. So today's stream is gonna be what was the name of it? Oh, whoops. Let me cook. Yes, chef. It's gonna be just chef themed today. I wanted to show you guys this meme that I found on the internet because it's just so great.
What are you playing at?
Am I still fired?
You can fire him.
What?
How can we claim to represent the name of Gustav if we don't uphold his most cherished belief?
And what belief is that, Mademoiselle Tattoo?
Anyone can cook.
Goddamn right.
I fucking love this meme, man. It's so good. But yeah. But this is just really funny, Chef Boyardee memes. I'm not a chef, but Boyardee's bitch is stupid. Chef Boy your ass ugly. Oh. And happy birthday, Winston. I don't know if you're watching right now, but I hope you watch later. And I hope you have a great birthday, my dude. Yeah. But let's move right along into the too long didn't read. Today's stream is going to be mostly talking about the price action because that's what I feel is the most important thing for us to pay attention to right now. With all of the random stuff that's happening within this stock, basically for me, I really want to hone in on the price action because that's going to be the big ticket to us making money off of this thing. Because like no matter how much we dig up on M&As and how many different companies we can research into, none of that stuff is going to make us money the way that getting these cycles right is going to make us money. So for right now, this is what I'm thinking. Still looking for the morning of 312 or 313 as the peak of this T plus 35 movement. For price, I'm thinking intraday is going to be about 29.71. But in the pre-market, it might go up all the way to 31.15. I'll get into on this page in a little bit, basically like my reasoning for how I derived at that point. But basically, the way I see it, um, I'm not going to be able to know for sure which day is the peak until we get parabolic day first. So, for example, if parabolic day ends up being 3/9, then the peak will likely be that Thursday, 3/12. But then if parabolic day isn't until 3/10, that Tuesday, then the peak is probably not going to be until 3/13. And basically, the way that I see it, if we look at the end of the movement last year, going into parabolic day in May of last year, or rather, let's just look at the whole thing real quick. So this was where Ryan Cohen bought, and then we had the upward movement, but then sideways, and then right around here, this is where we kind of are more or less. Right around here is where the pullback happened. But then after that, there was another like sideways slash upward action, and then right here, parabolic day. This is what I really want to hone in on. 5/22 was the day where we started to get massive action. So this parabolic day, which ends up being about like T plus 33 in the cycle, in the T plus 35 day cycle. But basically, it's going to be 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and then the peak happens in the pre-market on day 4. So basically, if we're following that pattern more or less, day 1 is parabolic day, day 2 is all day up, day 3 is all day up, which for me, I'll be taking profit near close, and then day 4, pre-market top and then drop, and then day 5 is an even bigger drop. Yeah, day 4 right here, and then day 5 is a big drop. So just something to pay attention to. And that's more or less how I see it happening. And this is going to be this more or less the second week of March. We'll get into what I see happening the next 2 weeks for the last week of February and then the first week of March in a little bit, which we're going to get into right here, apparently. But so sometime this week, probably like Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday, we're going to bottom. If you guys see here, we bottomed at 2309 on Wednesday, and then later that day, Ryan Cohen did his Hollow Men tweet, and then we got a pump up from that. As of right now, I'm thinking that if we hadn't got the Hollow Men tweet, we likely would have dumped down all the way to the 22 something range. But because of Ryan Cohen's tweet and the algorithm picking up on all of the bullish sentiment, and also this being Ryan's longest tweet that he's ever given us, and then a lot of news outlets picked up on it, and then Michael Burry obviously as well. There was just a lot of eyes and a lot of impressions happening from this tweet. So I think that this movement here was a tiny bump from that. It's very similar to right here on 126 when we had this was the day that we found out that Michael Burry opened a position on GME, and then it's also similar to back here in November when the algorithm picked up a lot of bullish sentiment from the day that the White House tweeted about the GameStop console wars ending. And so every time there's something that happens with the algo and news articles and a lot of impressions on social media, there's always a slight bump in the algorithm and the price before it settles back down into it. So that's what I believe happened here. There was a small bump, and then now it's coming back to the mean. So as of like what I see coming this week, I have a feeling we'll probably touch 2309 again at some point Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, possibly dipping down into 2269 or like 22 something range. That's a possibility. Just pay attention to it and be aware. I'm not comfortable calling the bottom yet until basically we've had a strong upward movement. And so, yeah, basically, I have a feeling like we're somewhere around here if we're looking at the April-May movement of last year. And so basically what I'm looking for to confirm that we're on the uppies movement again is like a 2 or 3% plus day, which if I'm correct, I have a feeling it'll be the 24th. I have a feeling it'll be the 24th-ish, maybe the 23rd, because right now we're looking at the FTDs coming in that are due for the T+35 for the end of December of last year. And so basically there's just a huge bump right here in FTDs that were due. So I have a feeling that the 24th will get some sort of a bump, but again, these weekly movements aren't as strong. For the next 3 weeks, let's go here. I have a feeling there's going to be one day where there's a strong upward movement here, and then one day where there's a strong upward movement here. But then other than that, it's going to be very slow uppies and then a little bit pullback as well. Yeah. So once we bottom, I have a feeling we're going to pump to maybe 26. If you guys see here, the top that we have so far is 2610, but that was in pre-market on the 3rd, which scam hours, I don't pay attention to that too much. So right now our intraday top is 2592. I have a feeling we'll test that again as the top between these next 2 weeks, and then we'll pull back from there. But basically, once we do top that again around like 2592 or whatever, then we pull back the next day, but then we're going to enter a wedge, sort of like how we saw in here, where top pullback, and then this pullback created a channel where this was the top, this was the bottom, and then it triangulated in on itself before finally doing that movement there. So I have a feeling it'll be doing something similar to that, where pretty much like we'll go upward like that and then down immediately, but then that's going to create a channel. And then this right here, this is going to triangulate on what I'm assuming will be parabolic day. And that's going to be around like 25xx-ish. Something like that. This isn't to scale. This is just a very quick drawing. But somewhere between like mid 24 and then mid 25-ish, that's what I'm thinking will end up for the triangulation. And then parabolic day will be somewhere around like 3.9, 3.10, something like that. But then after that, boomies. Yeah. And then we're still waiting on the date of RC's award package vote. That's going to give us a key into what's really coming next. Because if there's no M&A news or anything big news before the vote is announced, then I have a feeling it's going to be a longer wait. Like that's going to confirm. Right now I'm thinking May is going to be the M&A. And if there's no news before the vote is announced, then for me, that'll be pretty much confirmation of that. But if we do get news before the vote is announced, then M&A is very imminent. It might even be before the vote date. But that, to me, that seems like it's moving along too quickly. So I'm more in this boat right here, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's too long, didn't read. Um, so let's go back. Or actually, let me check the chat real quick. T35 on Tuesday, right? What do you mean T35 from what? From Ryan Cohen's whatchamacallit, from Ryan Cohen's bigger move, or from Ryan Cohen's buy. The T35 is going to be the second week of March. It's going to be right around in here. C. Miller, why do I block people on X when they disagree with my post? No, I only block people when they're being dickbags. And I block people who are clearly have an agenda of some sort. I don't have time for people like that. So what I have found is just it's easier to block people because I don't really care about wasting my energy on people who have small minds and big mouths. Yeah. Calvin, how you doing, my dude? Happy Sunday to you. Lugenbacher, it's gonna the T plus 35 from Cohen's buy is gonna be the second week of March. Teddy Guard, who's Thin Lizzy? Is that the lizard people? I prefer my corn dogs from 7-Eleven, not Costco. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been to a 7-Eleven in a long time. And I haven't gotten a gas station hot dog in a very long time either. Yeah, I don't trust them, man. You never know how long they've been sitting out there. I know that they're on that rotisserie roller thing, but yeah, no, no, thank you, no, thank you. Oh. But if you guys remember, right after Ryan Cohen bought, this is what I was expecting for us to happen. This was the red fractal here is from the beginning of 2024, and then the yellow was from his last buy last year. And so I figured we were going to be in between them more or less, and it's pretty much been kind of like that. So I'm very happy with what's been going on so far. Um, Before Ryan Cohen bought, this was the price action more or less that I was expecting. Uh, and because you guys got to remember that this is what I'm seeing as like the template, as like the pull movement, the magnets. Um, and so all of the movements that we're experiencing now, this is what it wants to, this is like what the reversion to the mean is. And so it's trying to get to here, but because Ryan Cohen bought, it created basically like a requel effect. Um, and so we're trying to find basically where that midpoint is between all of these different data sets that we have, between what happened at the beginning of 2024 and then what happened the last time Ryan Cohen bought, and then we're trying to see where the remix is happening and what happens from there. And so this is a close-up on Ryan Cohen's buy from last year, just so that you remember. This was the overall shape, um, a very quick up movement, and then a top, and then a double top, and then pull back down, and then getting the top again slightly higher this time, and then parabolic day, and then pew, I have a feeling it's going to be kind of like this again. And so if you guys remember my last prediction, I drew out this chart, and basically like following up on what happened, I made this chart like between the middle of this pullback, after we had already gotten the 2-3 pullback. And so basically the 2384 ended up being 2387 for the intraday, for February 3rd. And then I thought that 211 was going to double top it, but it didn't. But it was kind of a similar movement. It ended up being the day before on 210. My bad on that. And then it ended up the top being 20. The top ended up being 2520. So it went kind of like this. But I'm very happy with the result because I remember I mean, I put that prices are approximate to plus minus $1, and then dates are approximate to T plus minus 2 days. And yeah, so it was in that range for sure. And then the bottom that we've experienced so far was indeed the week of OPEX. After we had that 210 like top again, we did pull back, and then the bottom so far has been 2309 on Wednesday the 18th. So I'm very happy with this result. And then OPEX close ended up being 2343. So overall, I'm very happy with this. I'm still keeping my parabolic day guesstimate at around 25, 26. It might be mid 24 as well, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm liking this a lot. 3115 seems to be like it. I don't think that we're gonna hit that intraday, but we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, because it all depends. I'll explain in a little bit based off of the Fibonacci's that I've been putting together. But so far, this is what we've experienced, and then this is just to show you guys what was happening last year. Yeah, so more or less very similar. It definitely, as I guesstimated, this cycle was going to be lower, and it wasn't going to be as high. It's going to be lower lows and lower highs compared to what we experienced last year. And for the most part, that's been correct. So I'm very happy with that. And then this is going back to the OPEX guess that I guesstimated. We indeed landed right in that fucking circle, which I'm very happy about. And then the next 2 weeks, we went over this on that first page already. But then, yeah, this is just a close-up on what happened last year. And then this is what I can foresee happening, kind of. It won't exactly be like this, but this is just to kind of like put you in the frame of reference for what I'm seeing. And then you can just come back to this later if you want. But yeah, so this is the Fibonacci analysis. So this is from last year. Basically, in that first movement, we had like a triple bottom, and then after we had these tops at the 0.5, it came back to the 0.382, or rather, let me try to put this in explain this better. Basically, there's two Fibonacci's on this chart. The first Fibonacci is from here to here at this top, and then the second one is the whole thing from here to here. And so basically, for the whole thing, what we found is that the top of this first movement before the pullback, this first movement was at the 0.5 before we got to the whole thing. Just keep that in mind. But taking from this first movement and then the inner Fibonacci, it basically came back down to the 382. So we 1, 2, 3 tested it 4 times basically before finally being able to move up and out of it. So more or less, oh, I should have flipped this, my bad. Because the 382, if you flip them, then it becomes the 618. Sorry, my bad. I should have flipped it on this chart respectively, but I forgot. But if you follow the same concept, where one Fibonacci is here to here at the top, and then one is here all the way to what I expect will be the top. Basically, it pulled back to the 382/618. More or less, and then should be continuing upward. If this top right here, the 2592, if that ends up being the 0.5 like it was here, then that would mean that 3115-ish will be the top. But the thing about this one is that the 0.5 had a double top. So it had a very strong movement to there. Because this time around it didn't double touch that 0.5, I made another chart where the 0.5 was then at the 2520, which was the pullback peak. So if this ends up being the 0.5, then the top will actually be 2971-ish. And so if you take the mean between the two, somewhere between 2971 and 3115 will be what I'm guesstimating will be the peak, around 312, 313. That's my guess based off of the Fibonacci's and going into that. And we went into the missing pieces already, but we'll get into the FTDs and CAT errors in a little bit. And then this is just an update on the Curry chart. As you guys remember, I posted this like the beginning of February, and then this is just an update on what it looks like now. So more or less, still going to plan. Yeah, so I'm very happy with this. Oh, why is the bar called Puzzles? That's the puzzle. How I Met Your Mother. What a disappointing ending. But a lot of classic moments from that show. I liked it a lot. Davey boy, how you doing, my dude? Welcome. And then moving right along. So one of the missing pieces that I was needing from my last stream was the CAT errors. And so the CAT errors for this period finally came out this past week, and I had been pontificating that basically the first red day plus T34 would end up being the peak. So this time around things are a little bit different, but we are looking still kind of more or less at 312, 313, because yeah, I don't really know how to explain this because it's a little bit different, but basically the CAT errors from last year are different from this year, mostly because last year we had this was right around the Liberation Day from the Trump tariffs. So the markets in general were just tanking in general. I mean, this was a bottom for the market. Yeah, this was the whoops. Yeah, this was right around Liberation Day, at the beginning of April. So there was just a lot of crap happening all over the markets that day. So if you see, these error counts are just massive compared to what we see now. I mean, this is in the 14 billions going all the way to 23 billion. But then this time around, we're only looking at 200 million tops. So a little bit different, massively less errors this time around, because yeah, going into what we saw here, I mean, it was still a big pullback going into these days in general, but it wasn't as massive as this was. So just a little bit of a remix, but more or less still aiming for this general area of that second week of March for the peak. Again, the big indicator that I'm looking for is what day ends up being parabolic day, and then we'll just have to play it by ear from there. But also, I have a great respect for What Can I Make Today and his analyses that he puts out all the time. He has a very strong inclination about C35, which is calendar day 35. So I did include that on here, just because I have a lot of respect for the dude. So it's just something to keep in mind. But 3.6, 3.11, and 3.19 end up being the C plus 35 for these days in specific. But you can just come back and analyze this later if you want. I don't want to go into it too much because it's just, I don't know. There's a point where you have too much information where people's brains just get fried. So I'm going to try to keep it as expeditious as possible, I guess. And then this is just reiterating the whatchamacallit, the prices that we've seen so far. And then this was, this is just a visual of the prices that we saw from the last time. Yeah, this was prices from last year at the beginning of the month. I don't know if we need to go into that again. But going into the FTDs, I think this will be important because I made a post on the day that the FTDs were released, and people were like, "Oh, this doesn't mean anything, blah blah blah, it never hits." Okay, there's a lot of things that I need to dispel because it's important. One, this closing deadline that they put on this is not, I don't use this. I don't use these dates. This has nothing to do with my theory. I have to come up with my own numbers and my own calculations to get to T plus 35. To do that, I will literally go on the day chart one day, and then I'll go into date range. Oh, can you see that? Oh, I have to move my... I'll literally go into trading view and then date range, and then I'll make sure what is going on. I'll basically make sure that I have the correct dates. So T plus 35 from Ryan Cohen's first day buy 120 was 311, and you can tell because it says 35 bars, 1 bar for each day. And then 312 was the T plus 35 from his second buy. So that's usually how I double check to make sure what T plus 35 is. Because all the time I see people getting the T plus 35 date wrong. And I've gotten it wrong before too. And so now this is like my definitive way of checking to make sure that that date is correct. But something to just look at in comparison of last year and this year. Last year, the FTDs weren't that much because I pay attention mostly to like the notional amount, which is the amount of money that was in the FTDs. And this time around, we're getting a lot more money in the FTDs. So basically the theory that we were working on is which day in specific are we looking at to get the T plus 35 from? Because you could say T plus 35 from FTDs, but which day in particular? For people who say that it never hits, that's just completely false. Because if we look at the peak from last year, 528, T plus 35 was 47, which was the Monday right after Ryan Cohen sold. Or Ryan Cohen bought, I mean. So literally it was 2 days after. So that was why I was like, oh, T plus 35 plus 2. So that was just like a key indicator of which T plus 35 day is it from? How do we get that day? What is the first day in the chain reaction that we can systematically repeat over and over and over again in order to derive whatever day the peak day is? And that's what we're trying to find out right now. Yeah. So to all the people who are like T plus 35 never hits, it absolutely hits. We just haven't figured out which day it hits from. We haven't figured out which day to figure out what is 0 day and to start the countdown. Yeah. So in this chart especially, for the people who are like, oh, okay, let's do T plus 35 from 129, that's not how it works. It's not going to stack. Basically, what we'll see happening is that right here, 47 from last year, which ended up the T plus 35, it wasn't even a big FTD day. So there's just a lot of like mini calculations that I'm still trying to figure out in order to derive at which day is it. So basically right now, as long as it hits within this week-ish, and then possibly up to like here on the 17th or 18th, like I'll give that much leeway, like from the 9th to the 18th. If it can land within there, then this T plus 35 works. And then we just got to pinpoint how do we get to those final little movements. Yeah. And then this is just my personal calculations for the FTDs in order to give my own chart for it. Yeah. So you can take a picture of that if you want. Okay, that was enough for that page. Well, we're moving right along. This day is going to be bigger. Or shorter, I mean. But one of the things I wanted to look at was what did the first quarter look like for the last couple of years? Because more or less, I believe that there's some kind of annual cycle that happens where certain months will have boomies, and then certain months will be the magnets down. But then also, there's just a weird thing that happens within certain weeks and days within these time periods. I know that this is hard to see for you guys, but more or less, this was 2024 early, and then this was 2025, and then this was 2026 so far. And basically what I'm kind of seeing is that there's going to be a magnet down for the 23rd, and then there's going to be a magnet up for the 4th, and then a magnet down for the 9th. So these obviously can be moved by a couple of days, but this is just more or less something to keep in mind for the next 2 weeks as well. And I'll just slowly go through these so that you guys can screenshot it if you want. Yeah. But yeah, going into the annual cycles, Invisible Bull 8 put out something the other day that got my brain jogging a little bit. He posted on my T plus 35 theory, and basically like my second week of March date, and he said that would align perfectly with my quad witching theory, which is when you usually see pumps on GME 3 to 1 weeks before witching. And I was thinking in my head, because the quad witching ends up being the third Friday. So OPEX week of every month is the third Friday of every month, and then quad witching ends up being that OPEX day of every third month. So basically for 2025, it was March, June, September, and December. And then 2026, this is going to be the dates. There is something that happens within a month period, like a 1 to 3 week, 1 to 4 week-ish period. So this is just something that I wanted to bring up to you guys. I have to do a little bit more like nibbling with it in my head just to see how it all fits together. But basically this quad witching might be able to explain why we see so much action within the GME stock and why it pumps during these periods in time. I'm still working on it, I'm still nibbling on it, but just something to keep in mind. And then also January leaps, that OPEX ends up being in January. Leaps are the ones where long-term equity anticipation securities, they're the longer dated ones, usually 1 year plus. I forget how long they usually put them in advance. It's like 39 months or something like that, where like the furthest dated options that you can buy are about 39 months out. But the major leap expirations for every year ends up being in January. So that's why we usually see a strong movement in December and January of every year. Yeah, you look at December of last year, there was this rounding top, and then the December of the year before was this double top, or December then January. And then back here, November going into December and January, yeah, another double top. So I think that this all keys together somehow because of options markets, but just something to keep in mind. And I'll just leave this here so you guys can take a screenshot or something if you want. But let me just check the chat real quick before we move into the Hollow Men. Yeah. Hey, Pixie Dust, how you doing? Thank you very much for the sparkles, and I hope you have a great Sunday as well. Teddy Guard, I don't know. Do magnets work in watts? I don't know what the quantifiable magnetic energy, like I forget what the term is for that. How do you quantify magnetism? Okay. Determining either its magnetic field density using a Gauss meter in Gauss or Tesla, or holding power via a pull test in pounds or kilograms. So I guess Teslas are magnetic strength. Yeah. But yeah, they're both positive and negative, depending on which like where we are in the cycle. Teddy Gar, I don't know about that. A positive and negative magnet create electricity. I think it's a little more complicated than that, isn't it? You have to have like some other stuff in there, or maybe just one other thing. Then you need like movement and a conductor. Yeah, I don't think you can just have a negative and a positive magnet put together. I think that would just like connect them together. It doesn't create electricity from that. I don't know, physics. I'm not a physician, a physicist. But moving on to Ryan Cohen's Hollow Men, because what a tweet. What a treat. Man, oh man. I'm just gonna read this aloud because this is fucking badass, dude. The Hollow Men. American capitalism is rotting from the head down. We have replaced the owner-operator, the risk-taker, with a new parasitic class of corporate bureaucrat, the risk-free insider. By insider, I'm not referring to a specific title. I am referring to the entire administrative state that has captured the modern corporation. This includes the directors, who exist solely to collect fees, the executives, who exist solely to collect bonuses, and the managers, who exist solely to hire consultants. These are the hollow men of the boardroom. They are masters of PowerPoint. They wear the right suits. They say the right buzzwords about governance and ESG. They are mercenaries fighting a war with somebody else's ammunition. In a functioning economy, authority is tied to liability. If you make a bad decision, you lose your own money. That fear of loss is the only thing that keeps a business honest. It forces you to cut waste, obsess over the customer, and stay late to fix what is broken. Today, we have severed that link. We have rigged the game so that heads, the insider wins, tails, the shareholder loses. If the stock goes up, the insider collects a massive performance bonus. If the stock crashes due to their own incompetence, they are fired with a golden parachute worth tens of millions. They are gambling with the house's money, and they never leave the table poorer than they arrived. This looting starts in the boardroom. We have normalized a country club culture where directors are selected based on social profiling rather than their ability to build a business. The modern board member is often a professional tourist, paid an average of $350,000 a year. Let's be brutally honest about what that number represents. The average director is paid nearly 5 times the GDP per capita of the United States. They earn more for attending 4 quarterly lunches than the vast majority of Americans earn in 5 years of hard labor. And for what? Most of these directors are overboarded, sitting on 3 or 4 boards simultaneously. They treat directorships as a gig economy for the elite. They fly in, rubber stamp a compensation package they didn't read, and fly out. They collect checks from companies they do not understand, do not use, and certainly do not love. They are not here to ask hard questions. They are there to be collegial. They are there to protect the other insiders. And what happens when these boards hire executives who also have no personal capital at risk? We get the delegation economy. When a risk-free insider faces a crisis, bloated expenses, a broken supply chain, or a stale product, they do not roll up their sleeves. They hire a consultant. They pay a strategy firm millions of shareholder dollars to produce a 100-page deck telling them what they already know. This is not management. It is intellectual money laundering. They use shareholder capital to buy an insurance policy for their own careers. If the plan fails, they can blame the consultants. They delegate the work because they are terrified of the responsibility. They would rather preside over a slow, comfortable decline than risk a bold mistake. While American insiders are busy optimizing their severance packages, our global competitors are optimizing their products. They are not slowed down by bureaucracy. They are not waiting for a slide deck. They are outworking us. If we continue to fill our C-suites with administrators instead of operators, we will lose our edge. We will see iconic American franchises hollowed out by fees managed for the benefit of the insiders, while the true owners, the shareholders, are left holding the bag. The time for polite governance is over. If we want to save the American economy from mediocrity, we must demand a return to the owner's mentality. We need leaders who treat shareholder capital with the same reverence they treat their own savings. The era of the risk-free insider must end. That was posted at 2:24 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, February 18th of this year. That was the longest tweet Ryan has given us. That shit got me so fired up. But I just wanted to read T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Men, because obviously this plays into it, and I think it would be beneficial for us to go over it. Actually, I'm gonna... Give me 1 second. The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot. Mr. Kurtz, he dead. A penny for the old guy. 1. We are the hollow men. We are the stuffed men. Leaning together, headpiece filled with straw. Alas, our dried voices, when we whisper together, are quiet and meaningless as wind in dry grass, or rat's feet over broken glass in our dry cellar. Shape without form, shade without color, paralyzed force, gesture without motion. Those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom remember us, if at all, not as lost, violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuffed men. 2. Eyes I dare not meet in dreams, in death's dream kingdom, these do not appear. There, the eyes are sunlight on a broken column. There is a tree swinging, and voices are, and in the winds singing, more distant and more solemn than a fading star. Let me be no nearer in death's dream kingdom. Let me also wear such deliberate disguises, rat's coat, crow's skin, cross staves, in a field, behaving as the wind behaves, no nearer. Not that final meeting in the twilight kingdom. 3. This is the dead land. This is cactus land. Here the stone images are raised. Here they receive the supplication of a dead man's hand under the twinkle of a fading star. It is like this in death's other kingdom, waking alone at the hour when we are trembling with tenderness. Lips that would kiss form prayers to broken stone. 4. The eyes are not here. There are no eyes here. In this valley of dying stars, in this hollow valley, this broken jaw of our lost kingdoms, in this last of meeting places, we grope together and avoid speech, gathered on this beach in this tumid river. Sightless, unless the eyes reappear as the perpetual star, multifoliate rose of death's twilight kingdom, the hope only of empty men. 5. Here we go round the prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear. Here we go round the prickly pear at 5 o'clock in the morning. Between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act falls the shadow. For thine is the kingdom. Between the conception and the creation, between the emotion and the response falls the shadow. Life is very long. Between the desire and the spasm, between the potency and the existence, between the essence and the descent falls the shadow. For thine is the kingdom. For thine is, life is. For thine is the, this is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Yeah, so that's what this poem is, or that's more or less the, whatchamacallit, what's the word I'm thinking of? The inspiration, I believe, where it's just basically a bunch of dickbags hollowing everything out. One of the really amazing words that has come out in the last couple of years is enshittification. And it's basically these leeches, these parasites, who are just doing everything they can to squeeze a nickel, to squeeze a dime, to squeeze a penny out of everything that they can, to make that quick buck at any cost, without looking at what the long-term effects on society are going to happen and going to be. It's these people who just so annoying. But yeah, I really appreciated this tweet, so I wanted to read that stuff. Yeah, word historian RC Fucks indeed, my man. Navy Dean, how you doing, my man? Welcome, you guys. All right, let's move on to M&A. I don't have too much stuff. We're just going to go over this chart again because basically I think more or less we're still, I'm still expecting news in May because this, again, last year, February was when we got the first picture of RC with Michael Saylor, and that was when the rumors about Bitcoin finally started. And it wasn't until like 3.5 months later that he finally announces the Bitcoin buy. So if you guys look, I mean, we had a whole cycle here, and then an actual full cycle here before we finally got the delivery on this. But something to keep in mind as well. Here was where Ryan Cohen bought. So he also might announce at the end of this T+35. All right. If that happens, then expect an announcement right at my peak date for right here. Yeah. But then also be prepared for a giant dumpies either way, because buy the rumor, sell the news. That is the classic what's the word, like wisdom of the stock market. Yeah. And then going into the S3, I finally read through the whole document to find out what all these bad boys mean. And so this part of the presentation, I'm going to go into them to kind of give you an idea of what they mean more or less, so that we can see what to expect and kind of what I'm expecting, how they'll fall into like the overall scheme of these M&As that are going to happen, and then the whole Teddy play as well. But for the S3, this is the playbook. I highly recommend that you guys read it. It's a illuminating read. But we're going to have Class A common stock, which is the regular shares that we can buy on the market right now. preferred stock, which is basically like a cross between a Class A share and a bond. Debt securities like the convertible notes that we have, depository shares, which is basically a fractionalized preferred stock, warrants, which we all got, which is basically the ability to buy shares at a certain price and at a strike and at an expiration date. Purchase contracts, which is more or less like a warrant, but it seems like a more complex one. And then units, this is going to be what I think we're going to get with the what's the word? The shareholder rights plan, or the poison pill. Basically, it's going to give us the ability to buy Teddy at a discounted rate. And then subscription rights. We'll get into that a little bit because I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of confused about what the fuck subscription rights are. But basically what we currently have now are the Class A common stock, the debt securities, and the warrants. Class A common stock, it comes with voting rights, one voting right per share. And then basically when we do that ATM offerings, the at the market offerings, this dilutes the Class A common stock. Right now, the TSO is about 448 million shares. And then the TSO, after all the warrants are exercised, if they all get exercised, is about 502 million shares. Yeah. So 502 million is basically what I'm expecting the TSO is going to be at basically the beginning of November. So we won't get that new TSO until I'm guessing the December earnings? No, it might be later than that. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for the debt securities, right now we have the convertible note 1 and convertible note 2. I'm still working on compiling all the information from that because I'm not like too familiar with debt securities. But debt securities is basically them borrowing money in one way or another. These convertible notes offer a conversion to shares, so they're also possibly dilutive. But they also give GameStop the ability to just pay back those convertible notes without having to convert them to shares. Yeah, and keep in mind they're also at 0% interest. So whoever is holding these is basically holding them because they want the shares. But there's also probably some kind of like arbitrage trade that is happening with them. But this is like institutional buyer level stuff. I don't think at this point, I don't think Roaring Kitty is one of the people buying and trading these. I think it's like hedge funds and banks and stuff like that. And then the warrants, what we have right now is the warrants that were expiring October 30th with a strike price of $32. Right now, they're trading at $4.25. What we saw was the peak of the first day that it was trading was $5.99. And that was literally just the first day. And the peak since then, though, is $4.73, which was what we saw on 2/2, which was this day. So I have a feeling, I don't know really what to guesstimate will be the top once we reach the peak of this movement. Just because, I mean, they're supposed to be similar to this call option, which was the closest one, the 32 strike price for the 16 Octobers. But I mean, they're trading wildly different. If you guys follow Altimator on X, he has done a cool deep dives into the differences between them. So I highly recommend you check out his stuff. Yeah. But in terms of what the peak will be for the warrants, I have no idea. That's something to pay attention to and watch and track. But then pre-Teddy phase, which I think will be very soon. I think we're going to get units given to all the holders that are holding GameStop. But basically a unit is like a complex warrant. because a warrant gives you the opportunity to buy a share at a certain strike price, but a unit will probably give us the ability to buy a different security at a certain strike price. So we might be able to buy Teddy at a certain strike, but we also might be able to buy like the other Teddy umbrella stocks. I'm guessing Bed Bath & Beyond will be one of them, and so we might be able to buy Bed Bath & Beyond like at a certain strike price included in that unit as well. Basically, a unit is just a very complex warrant. You'll be able to buy a whole bunch of different stuff, or it's like a whole bunch of different stuff packed into one unit. But I have a feeling once we're getting Teddy, that's going to be like a Teddy unit that we get. And then once Teddy is actually like opened and trading and like on the stock market, and it's like we can openly trade back and forth on the open market and everything, we're going to move into a different phase where basically preferred stock is it's issued to raise capital without diluting voting control. So a big difference. These convertible notes, they offer the ability to convert to shares. For preferred stock, they don't do that. It's basically like a hybrid between common stock and a bond, where it does have voting rights sometimes, depending on whether or not that's in the thing. But the biggest thing that they're usually known for is that they give dividends, and so that's something that I'm looking forward to, is the ability to buy preferred stock. What I have seen though, when I did research into what's its name, Berkshire Hathaway, I saw that they never offered preferred stock. What happens instead was that Berkshire Hathaway, when they were taking control of another company, or when they were basically lending out money to another company, that company would give Berkshire Hathaway their preferred stock. And so Berkshire Hathaway would be getting dividends and voting control and a possibility to convert to shares from that company's preferred stock. So I'm not sure when we get to the Teddy phase if Teddy is going to be giving us preferred stock, or if GameStop will be giving Teddy preferred stock. But I have a feeling we, as retail investors, might not be able to trade preferred stock back and forth. From what I've seen, preferred stock for retail investors is really only available for like banking stocks and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get that. But depository shares is basically like a preferred stock, but fractionalized. Because right now, in our charter, the S3 charter, we are allowed to sell up to 5 million preferred shares. And so depository shares basically lets us kind of like have a loophole to that. So instead of 5 million, like full preferred shares, it's going to be like, I don't know, like 1 to 10 for that. So you'd have like 50 million depository shares, where, let's say, for example, a preferred share is selling at 250 per share. A depository could be 10 to 1, trading at $25 per depository share, something like that. But overall, the dividends would still be, what's the word, proportional to it. So if the, let's just say, for intents and purposes, 4%, it would likely still be at 4% for both the preferred share and the depository share. Yeah. Keep in mind, I'm very new to all of these different instruments, so this is just from a very like quick researching glance. But I just wanted to put these out there because I feel like most people don't have any idea of what these instruments are. So I at least wanted to put these things on your radar so you could be like, oh, okay, I have a frame of reference of some sort. Keep in mind, because I'm so new to all of this stuff, it might not be completely correct, but I think for the most part, it's like in the right direction at the very least. Yeah. And then this was just some of the research. I'll leave this up for a second so that you can just go back and take a screenshot of it if you want. Yeah. But then purchase contracts, again, they're more like complex warrants because it seems like there's going to be like a whole bunch of different stuff that you can buy at the same time. But I was very confused about that one because I was like, what is the fucking difference between this and what has already been stated? So it'll be interesting to see. And I also haven't like been able to see too many other companies with purchase contracts. So I was like, let me abandon this. I'll come back to it later. And then subscription rates, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know. Yeah, this one was also very difficult to tell what the fuck the difference is between the other stuff. So, yeah. Before we move on, Wall Street Rat, what's Teddy? That's a lot of lore that you're talking about. Teddy is basically what we have been speculating to be Ryan Cohen's holding company that he's been building over the last couple of years. Teddy is named after his father, Teddy, and I'm pretty sure that that's going to end up being his holding company. All GameStop and Chewy and Bed Bath & Beyond, we are speculating that it's all going to fall under the Teddy umbrella, like Teddy Holdings LLC or something like that. Yeah. Miles Moaz, how you doing, my man? Good vibes as well. Good vibes to you. Glad to see you, my dude. I also, as a big Spider-Man fan, I love it whenever you post Spider-Man stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Fucking Spidey, man. Kingsman name. Side note, Burry just dispelled the 700% short interest 8 minutes ago. Not sure if you said anything about that. Let me check it real quick. And Miles Moaz, love you too, brother. Yeah, let's check on this because this was some hot goss. Mr. Burry. Papa, Mr. Burry, what you doing? I usually don't like reading stuff like as it's happening, but okay, we'll do it live. Yeah, I think it was Noctis Research who had posted about the 700%. But let's read into this and see. There is a poster on X claiming that GME short interest is 700% of shares outstanding. I believe he does some clever reverse engineering to discover how markets are made. He claims buy volume and short sell volume track together as part of the evidence to start his theory off. This is market making and is true for just about all stocks. I explained operational shorting by market makers, dealers in my final stop GameStop post. As I said then, this mechanism affects all stocks, not just GameStop. Nothing so sinister after all. This poster is working backwards to rediscover operational shorting again, which is neither directional nor illegal. The SEC report he cited for his original data also discussed this market maker facilitation / operational shorting. Also, one may not sum short sale trades across days and then say it is this great multiple of shares outstanding. A single share can be bought and sold short many times over those days. Totaling shares sold short during a day or week is essentially a flow measure that cannot stand alone and ignores the buy side of the transaction. Where the poster claims short interest is over 700%, the poster is more or less calculating the rate of flow of those shares. Maybe the same shares changed hands 7 times over the period. This is the same mistake some investors make interpreting FINRA data on short sales. It is normal and not illegal. I recommend reading Final Stop GameStop for a refresher on the facts behind these types of theories. So basically, what he's saying is that the short sale data is like the volume of short sales, not necessarily that this is a like not necessarily like it's like open interest of a short sell. That's my assumption of what he's saying, which I guess I understand that now. Yeah. Huh. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wonder what Noctis is going to say after that. Yeah. But Kingsman, thanks for bringing it to our attention on the stream. Yeah, Vic, pirate flag, and Miles, yeah, pirates. Well, we're moving right along here. This is gonna be pretty shorter stream compared to last time. But I want to get into this because when we talk about the GameStop puzzle, we have to be able to quantify it in a way. We have to have like reasonable expectations for what we're actually looking for. Because what is the GameStop puzzle? Like, we have to be able to list out the different portions of it. So I've been working on this, and this gives us a tangible portion of the puzzle that we can, one, figure out what it is, but then two, solve it. So these are, in my opinion, three parts to the GameStop puzzle. The first two are actually important, and the third one is optional. This is a work in progress, and so there's going to be more pieces that I probably will end up thinking about later on, and we'll add to it. But basically, the first part is the price action puzzle. Basically, how to trade the cycles like Keith Gill does. And that'll involve the T+35 price action cycle, but then it'll also involve the ultimate macro fractal. Those of you this was a chart that I saw on you that more or less it looks like what I believe to be like the overall fractal, where basically pump 1, pump 2, pump 3, and then pump 4 is like a whack-a-mole phase, and then pump 5 is the actual MOAS. I need to show you this chart again. This was the simplification of it. Yeah. But this is what I believe to be the macro fractal. This was January 2021, and then this was May 2024. And then I believe the third touch will be December of this year at about $55, $54, something like that. And then once we get there, then we'll move on from there. So how to trade the price action like Keith. Yeah, boom. But then the second part of that is the options, understanding the options portion of it, buying the bottom, selling the top, making over 1,000% gains on these movements, and also like being able to let go at the right time and buying at the right time. That's what I'm trying to do with this price action puzzle. Once we can solve that, then also when to do the parabolic day roll. Actually, this might be a good time to go into looking at we're going all the way back to 2024 here. All right. So this is the net premium chart for April going into May, basically the week that Roaring Kitty came back with his meme sequence. And I want to just show you guys what these days looked like. Wow, what a big dump. Massive dump. What day was this? It was the 14th. Wow, even here. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, 12th and the 13th. So 5-9, that ended up being like the parabolic day of that sequence. Yeah. So basically, this was March OPEX of 24. And then we see the bottom touch here at the midweek of April. And then double bottom touch on the last week of April. And then basically that first week of May is a very, very tight spring where we're just more or less trading sideways. He was loading up on the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th. That was when the options chain started blowing up, which was right here. Yeah. Right there. Options chain started blowing up. And then right around here, 5.2 and 5.3, and then also 5.9. That was when these original options that he bought at the bottom, he started rolling them to higher strikes, more out the money. Because basically, at a certain point in being in the money, the amount of gain that you get from an option isn't as much. So basically, when you're playing this, you buy at the bottom. This is not financial advice. This is just what I observed from the way that Roaring Kitty traded. And I need to go like more in depth. I'll make a whole presentation on it because I need to like put the side-by-side view of all the different individual options and stuff so that you guys can see like how far out the money he went and stuff like that. Because I mean, just when I researched into it, it was such an eye-opening and illuminating thing to look at, because it was like, oh, okay, this is options 101. This is a really cool way to see it. Because if you can figure out the cycles, then basically you buy at the bottom here where your contracts are basically like only this far out the money, or actually he bought here and it was like this far out the money, and so it was already in the money by here. And then here he rolls into like more out the money, and then like here-ish he rolled to like way out the money. So he's following this curve. That's how you make the best bang for your buck along this this exponential curve. Yeah. So I was gonna take a picture of this, put it on there. Yeah. But price action puzzle. That's puzzle number one. In my opinion, the most important puzzle of it, because this is the one that will actually make us money. So if we could figure this out, Gonna be good cheese. And then puzzle number 2, what is Ryan Cohen's big plan? Basically, what's the Teddy play? What do shareholders receive? What are BBYQ holders going to get from this? What are GME holders going to get? What are current BBBY holders going to get? Overstock. And then what's the timeline? And then who's involved? Which companies are involved in the M&As? And then T0 blockchain, how does that all fit together? And then RC's award package, the timeline of the completion. When is he going to be able to get all the tranches and stuff? All of these things are part of the second puzzle, which is Ryan Cohen's big plan. Which, I mean, it's a fun puzzle to solve, and it's helpful to know this in order to figure out this. But for this one, I don't know how you actually make money from this, because unless you're like trying to pick a whole bunch of random companies and then buying those shares with the chance that it might be wrong. Like, for example, at this point, I really think that Target is the first acquisition target. It might not be. But if I were to buy shares in Target and then it ends up being a different company, then I would have to just buy Target or sell Target at a loss or whatever. And it's just like, how many companies can you invest your other stocks in where it's just like random guessing, when for me, I think it's just more beneficial to just put all that money into trying to figure out GameStop, either buying shares or buying options or warrants or something like that. And so for me, I'm putting my money just still in GameStop and then trying to solve the puzzle just as an intellectual puzzle. But then the third one, the optional one, what are the meaning of the memes? I say that this is optional because the meaning of the memes aren't going to help us with anything. They're not their own. They're not like the end all be all. For me, trying to figure out the puzzle is the memes are just like signs to get us there. The memes are to help us figure out this and this. And so that's why I say that the meme puzzle is just the optional one. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I figured out the puzzle. And it's like, what do you mean you figured out the puzzle? No one's figured out the puzzle yet, because no one knows how to trade like Roaring Kitty, and no one knows how to fucking time this shit yet. So what do you mean you figured out the puzzle? No, you fucking didn't. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, Kingsbane, thank you again for bringing it up. Chief 82, welcome. What do you think about barking puppies posts lately? I like the butterflies, man. I ain't gonna lie. For those of you who don't understand butterfly and what that means, it is DK Butterfly, which was which tab was it? DK Butterfly. When Bed Bath & Beyond went through bankruptcy, the shell that was left over got renamed to DK Butterfly. There's a difference between DK Butterfly as is and then DK Butterfly -1 and stuff like that. You'll have to go to Jake 2B's page and Bobby Cat to like get more information on that, because I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm fucking retarded when it comes to lawyer talk, and this is a lot of lawyer talk, man. I just fucking hate it. Fucking hate it. That's why I let guys that are smarter than me handle that shit. Yeah, no, thank you. I don't want to deal with that. I just know that it's there. and I trust them to do the digging into it. Yeah, Chief, I expect the next big pump to be in the 50s, and that'll be in December. I think between now and then, this is just going to be more or less like tiny cycles, like what we've seen here, just tiny pumps along the way. But here, this isn't until December of this year, I think. I've gone in depth in previous videos, but for this video, I'm going to stick mostly to just the next 3 weeks, as I think that's more important. Because if the next 3 weeks ends up being wrong, then I got to throw this theory out anyway, more or less. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, but I mean, making GameStop worth hundreds of billions, it's eventually. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. And I think it's going to take several quarterly reports before we can finally get to the 100 billion thing. I think even, I mean, this goes into my like 2028 MOAS theory. I think people need to expand their time horizon a lot more. What we've just seen over and over and over again is that it's just going to take longer than we're expecting. And so for everybody who keeps thinking that we're going to MOAS this year, or we're imminently MOAS, I think you're going to be disappointed. Yeah. But that's just my theory. That's my opinion. Yeah. You aren't that important. Impressive stuff, Buff Farm. You're super locked in. Grateful for minds like yours in this saga that can chew through the data and regurgitate for the rest of us. Nice work on the fib. Thank you. You aren't that important. I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like Jake is able to really hone in on like the legalese and like the legal aspects of this play. For me, I really honed in on the price action. That's what I'm like. That's my bread and butter. That's what I want to figure out. And I've done that by just dissecting the memes and stuff like that. So I appreciate your appreciation. Yeah, and I don't know. This is really fun for me. Yeah, yeah. Vic, how you doing, my dude? Welcome. Yeah, we're gonna get into macro real quick. I want to show you guys this image again from my last one, but the perception is that gold and silver are rising and that the dollar is staying the same. But in actuality, gold and silver is staying the same and the dollar is just being debased. I just want to put that out there. And then I'm also going to pull out this video from Ray Dalio. It's like a snippet of what he posted before. But we're gonna watch this video for about 5 minutes.
I studied the 10 most powerful empires over the last 500 years and the last 3 reserve currencies. It took me through the rise and decline of the Dutch Empire and the guilder, the British Empire and the pound, the rise and early decline in the United States Empire and the dollar, and the decline and rise of the Chinese Empire and its currencies, as well as the rise and decline of the Spanish, German, French, Indian, Japanese, Russian, and Ottoman empires, along with their significant conflicts, as measured in this chart. To understand China's patterns better, I also studied the rise and fall of Chinese dynasties and their monies back to the year 600. Because looking at all these measures at once can be confusing, I'll focus on the 4 most important ones: the Dutch, British, US, and Chinese. You'll quickly notice the pattern. Now let's simplify the form a bit. As you can see, they transpired in overlapping cycles that lasted about 250 years, with 10 to 20-year transition periods between them. Typically, these transitions have been periods of great conflict because leading powers don't decline without a fight. So how am I measuring an empire's power? In this study, I used 8 metrics. Each country's measure of total power is derived by averaging them together. They are education, inventiveness and technology development, competitiveness in global markets, economic output, share of world trade, military strength, the power of their financial center for capital markets, and the strength of their currency as a reserve currency. Because these powers are measurable, we can see how strong each country is now, was in the past, and whether they're rising or declining. By examining the sequences from many countries, we can see how a typical cycle transpires. And because the wiggles can be confusing, we can simplify it a bit to focus on the pattern of cause-effect relationships that drive the rise and decline of a typical empire. As you can see, better education typically leads to increased innovation and technology development, and with a lag, the establishment of the currency as a reserve currency. You can also see that these forces then declined in a similar order, reinforcing each other's decline. Let's now look at the typical sequence of events going on inside a country that produces these rises and declines. In a nutshell, the big cycle typically begins after a major conflict, often a war, establishes the new leading power and the new world order. Because no one wants to challenge this power, a period of peace and prosperity typically follows. As people get used to this peace and prosperity, they increasingly bet on it continuing. They borrow money to do that, which eventually leads to a financial bubble. The empire's share of trade grows, and when most transactions are conducted in its currency, it becomes a reserve currency, which leads to even more borrowing. At the same time, this increased prosperity distributes wealth unevenly, so the wealth gap typically grows between the rich haves and the poor have-nots. Eventually, the financial bubble bursts, which leads to the printing of money and increased internal conflict between the rich and the poor, which leads to some form of revolution to redistribute wealth. This can happen peacefully or as a civil war. While the empire struggles with this internal conflict, its power diminishes relative to external rival powers on the rise. When a new rising power gets strong enough to compete with the dominant power that is having domestic breakdowns, external conflicts, most typically wars, take place. Out of these internal and external wars come new winners and losers. Then the winners get together to create the new world order, and the cycle begins again.
So I thought that was a really helpful video. But I'm going to read this for you guys because I think it's helpful to see it in multiple different ways. Ray Dalio just released 500 years of data showing exactly how empires collapse. His conclusion, America is in stage 6 of 9, the dangerous stage. Here's what his math actually says about where we're headed. Dalio studied every major empire collapse since 1500, Dutch, British, American. The pattern repeats with machine-like precision every 50 to 100 years, not because of politics or ideology, because of math. The big debt cycle has 9 stages. We're currently in stage 6, the dangerous one. Here's how it works. Stage 1 through 4, the rise. Countries borrow to build infrastructure. Debt is productive. GDP grows faster than debt service costs. Everything feels sustainable. This was US from 1945 to 2000. Low debt to GDP, strong productive growth, borrowing made sense. Stage 5, the top. Debt service hits 15 to 20% of GDP. Interest costs start crowding out productive spending, but everyone's too comfortable to notice. Markets boom, wealth gaps explode. The US crossed this threshold around 2008. Stage 6, the crisis. This is where we are now. Federal debt exceeds 120% of GDP. 2 choices: let interest rates rise and crash the economy, or print money and create inflation. Both destroy wealth, just differently. In the 1930s, we chose deflation. In 2008, we chose money printing. In 2026, we're doing both at the same time. Stage 7 through 9, the reset. Either massive restructuring through negotiation or war. History shows wars resolve 90% of these cycles, not because humans are violent, because debts become mathematically impossible to service. Dalio's data is clear. When internal inequality peaks and external rivals emerge, conflicts become inevitable. The US has both right now. Wealth inequality hasn't been this high since 1929. China's GDP grew 6 to 8% annually, while we borrowed to maintain consumption. Dalio's advice for stage 6 is simple. Sell debt, buy gold. Not because gold produces anything, because governments print money to escape debt traps. Gold has risen 3 times since 2020, exactly as the model predicted. But here's what actually matters for regular investors. You can't stop the big cycle, but you can position for it. Dalio's framework identifies 5 big forces that drive every transition. 1. Productivity growth. 2. Debt cycles. 3. Money supply. 4. Wealth gaps. 5. Geopolitical power shifts. When all 5 align in the same direction, the cycle turns. Right now, all 5 are pointing towards stage 7. Productivity growth is slowing. Debt service costs are rising faster than GDP. Money supply expanded 40% since 2020. Wealth concentration is at century highs. China is building parallel financial infrastructure. The math doesn't lie. So what does positioning actually look like? Dalio's research across 500 years shows 3 consistent patterns. Pattern 1. Fiat currencies lose value during stage 6 to 7 transitions. Every time. No exceptions. Governments print to escape debt traps. The dollar, pound, and euro all follow the same path. This is why gold and hard assets outperform during these periods. Pattern 2.
I studied the 10 most powerful empires.
Pattern 2. Geographic diversification matters more than asset class diversification. When one empire declines, another rises. Dutch to British, British to American. The cycle doesn't end, it relocates. Portfolios concentrated in declining empires get crushed. Pattern 3. Volatility spikes 3 to 5 times during stage 6. The 1930s saw 50% market swings, or 50% plus market swings. The 1970s stagflation created wild inflation volatility. 2008 to 2009 saw daily 5% moves. Stage 6 isn't calm. It's chaos punctuated by brief stability. Here's the data that should terrify you. U.S. debt to GDP, 120%, highest since World War II. Annual interest costs approaching $1 trillion. China's GDP growth, 6 to 8%, while U.S. averages 2 to 3%. Time between 1929 inequality peak and crash, 8 months. Time since current inequality peak. We're in it now. So I wanted to go over this video and this post because it's a great insight into what's actually happening now. We're at a transition period, and basically I'm convinced that we're moving away from the dollar, and they're positioning to make a new central bank digital currency, a new digital currency into the main cheese of what's going to be in play. I went in my last video, at the end of my last video, about like what the steps involved with that, and I don't want to go into it here. You can watch it from the last one. But basically, this is just to give you guys an idea of the macroeconomics that's happening right now, and kind of what to expect moving forward. Yeah, and then this chart from that video was really great as well. Yeah, Vic, I agree. It does feel like right before Tesla capitulated. I assume that was what you're talking about when it was bashing Tesla. But yeah, I agree with you. We are on the cusp of a slow ass, basically. Yeah. Nightmare Zerathos, yeah, Peruvian Bulls, Dollar Milkshake, DD, yeah, along the same page. Rotund Calzone, no, I'm not DFE. I've never met the family. Which I want to say real quick, I am rooting for the Gills. I know that we had a little bit of a scare in my last video about Barking Puppy and Kevin Gill, with him possibly pushing a shitcoin. I know that since then he has kind of backed off from it, hasn't given us that much evidence towards that. And then also I haven't followed up with his cousin thing, but it seems like that stuff has died down and he's basically just like doing memes and movie reviews right now, which I'm cool with. And also, I also don't think, even if he were to pump a shitcoin, I don't think that whatever bad Kevin can do will outweigh the good that Keith has done for us. So the Gills, I mean, they'd have to do a lot of fucking shitty stuff before I'm like, the Gills are bad people. So I'm still rooting for them in my book. But I wanted to put that out there. I'm still a big fan of the Gill family. But Kevin, don't you dare wander into the sharding puppy fucking shitcoin. Don't do it. I'm watching you. Chief, no, I don't think an announcement will set this thing off. I think the announcement will bring us into a new arena, and it'll basically what it does is bring us into a new area, pump, and then retrace, come back down. Pump, retrace, come back down. Every time it does this, it brings us into a new higher, or not necessarily a higher area, but just higher relatively from where the local bottom is. So right here, this retrace came down to 1770. We might see that again one time, but then right before or right after we see that, that's when we go pew. So the way that my fractal works, this pump 2 is going to be higher than pump 3. This pump 2 we saw 80. This pump 3 we're going to see about 55. That's what I think. But every time we will see a higher low. So these lows were in the teens. After this point, we'll never see the teens again. So I think once we get to Teddy News, that's what's going to happen, is that we never see the teens again. And then slowly and methodically over the years, we'll higher and higher floor. Yeah. And then I don't think that MOAS itself is going to be until here, when this big wedge finally closes. Let me go to the 8-hour chart so you can see. Yeah. Boom. Boom. This thing doesn't close until all the way out here in like 2028-ish. So it's going to be a long road. I heard the Gills can breathe underwater. I mean, they're runners, so they definitely have good breath and good lung capacity. Brian, $50 by December. That kind of blows for all these warrants I'd like to exercise. I do think so. This is the next avocado in my anus day, which is right around the time when the warrants expire. I do think we're going to see the bottom of this action before then, because I'm expecting by the time expiration happens, our price will be above $32, and definitively so, because basically Ryan's got to make it financially lucrative for us to exercise at $32. So if the price is not over $32 by then, what the fuck is going to be the point of exercising now? And I don't think that he's going to extend the date, because I think he has a very key. I think he's locked in on these price cycles, and I think that he chose that expiration date very purposefully. So I'm pretty sure we'll be above 32 by a lot. Probably in like the high 30s, maybe 40s, by the time we get to the end of October. Yeah. But I do think the peak of December, the peak of that movement, will be about 55 right here. Yeah. But shorts had an excuse to bring the price down. The bear thesis will be completely obliterated with an announcement. The shorts, as we understand it, I don't think these guys who were seller boxing the stock, I don't think the people who were doing this are in charge of this movement anymore. I think once this happened, they completely lost control. The shorts now are not the ones controlling the downward movement on the stock. I think the downward movement on the stock is completely algorithmic based. We're going to go real quick. Now this is what I'm going into is heavy speculation. But this is GameStop's institutional shareholders. Vanguard is the top one, and then BlackRock. I've spoken a lot about Aladdin, BlackRock's algorithmic system, whatever the trading system or whatever it is. I'm pretty sure it's in control of all of these movements, and it is following a cyclical pattern. Where is it? And it's following a cyclical pattern of sorts, where these movements, more or less, are the algorithm of what we're seeing in the trading of the stock. So I don't think that the shorts are in control. I think Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, I think they're in control, and they're lending out all of their shares. They are basically positioning themselves to profit both on the ups and the downs. They are the ones who are selling us the options. They are the ones who are also buying options, and then it's basically like a Las Vegas casino where they are the casino and they are winning on every single possible way that you can think of. They're the ones in control of this stock. So every time that this stock is being shorted, I don't think it's being shorted by these guys anymore. I think these guys are way underwater and they're struggling to survive. I think Citadel is in this crew. I don't think Citadel is doing well anymore, and they're no longer in control or in charge of what's happening here. I think the people in control of what's happening here are playing both sides of the aisle. And so that's why we're seeing these algorithmic movements. And as soon as Ryan Cohen makes an announcement, just like here when we announced that we bought Bitcoin, the stock is going to do the same thing. Buy the rumor, sell the news, and it's going to dunk. I think the only difference is that it's going to be a new floor every time. So this low is going to be higher, and it's going to continue to rise over time. But Chief, I hope that answers more or less how I feel about the short sellers that are in this play still. I don't think that they are able to seller box, and I definitely don't think that they're in control anymore. The people who are in control are playing both sides, and they're in control of both the ups and the downs, and they're playing both the ups and the downs, positioning themselves accordingly. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I mean about shorts. I don't think that everybody against GameStop is shorting GameStop, and I don't think all of the shorts are against GameStop, because I mean, BlackRock is probably short GameStop, and they're the fucking third biggest holder of GameStop. So all of these institutional buyers and holders, they're playing both sides of the coin. What do you make of .72 owning the most warrants, giving the photos of RC sitting in Steve Cohen's seat at a basketball game a while back, and the tinfoil around that signaling some sort of deal? I think there was probably a trade at some point, because .72, they were also one of the biggest holders of PSA, the card collectibles grading company. I think that there was probably a trade of some sort where Ryan was like, yo, give me PSA. And then I don't know if he got some basketball seats in the exchange. Yeah, I don't know too much about that. But I definitely think that Steve Cohen, he made some sort of deal because he was in a tight situation, and he had to get out of jail free, basically. Yeah. But all of that's speculation. I don't know for sure. But we're going to end on this little section right here. We're going to talk about the matrix, and then I'm going to start going into my disclosure sequence. But basically, the world you were born in no longer exists. It never really existed. Everything that we know and love was more or less a lie, and more or less a psyop. Yeah. But let's go into the most important info. I love this GIF from Malcolm in the Middle. The lighting on it is so fucking good. But I wanted to read this stuff to you guys so that you see where I'm coming from. As always, when one begins a quest for the truth, we inevitably find a lot of darkness in that tunnel. I've also gone through my own ups and downs, spirals of emotions, and the one thing I always turn back to is this core understanding. Love yourself, love others, and love the world around you. This is my understanding of everything. The universe is love. Love is the universe. We, humanity, each individual, each animal, each living thing, each molecule of air and water and fire and earth, we are all fractals of a universe that is experiencing itself through its own fractionalized children, basically parts of a whole, like cells in a body. And the universe is a song, and we are all parts of that choir. The most important thing you can do in your life is love yourself, love others, and love the world around you. All of the other information is secondary to that maxim. The only thing that matters is love. And I want to just hit on that really, really specifically, because everything else I talk about, like ever, none of it matters in comparison to what this truth is. And the sooner you get on board with this idea, the sooner everything else is going to fall into place, especially with what comes next. But the big picture of what's going on, I'm going to go into the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is all speculation. This is my understanding of things. But humans are eternal. We are infinite. What we see here is basically just a meat suit, but our soul, our true purpose is outside, is ethereal. Our true purpose was to eventually become the guardians of the universe, the protectors, basically. Yeshua, Jesus, I'm quoting John 14, 12 through 14. Verily, verily, I say unto you. Let me make this bigger. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth in me, the works that I do, he shall do also, and greater than these shall he do, for I go unto my Father. And whatsoever ye ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. Pretty much, love, God, it's all the same thing, more or less. I've held the belief for a very long time that all religions eventually triangulate in love is the universe, and the universe is love. And I have felt that way for over a decade of my life. And the more we find out about these terrible things that are happening in society, and the more that the veil is being revealed to us, the deeper and deeper I sink into these overall understandings about the universe, and the more I feel vindicated in it. I believe that we are here for a much greater purpose, and I think that we are about to find out a big part of that bigger picture. Yeah. So the bad. The reason that mankind has been kept in a cycle of slavery is because of a war for power. Basically, where all right, basically we are being imprisoned on a loosh farm. For those of you who have never heard this word before, loosh is the suffering that happens to us, and it's basically like the spiritual emissions that come out when we suffer greatly. It's basically like the energy that comes off of us whenever we're feeling a lot of energy. It can either be great or like happy energy or sad energy, but for the most part, the demonics that are like farming us, they find more satisfaction from the negative suffering that happens from us, or that happens to us. And then the fallen angels, archons, demonics, ancients, they fell from heaven, or like a higher sphere, and were severed from source, aka what we understand as God. And their only chance to survive is to basically feed off of us. And so that's why they've put us into this farm, so that they can continue to live. This is a really interesting video, is when Jim Carrey went on Jimmy Kimmel, and he was basically talking about the Illuminati. I'm not going to go into this video right now, but you can watch it later. You can look it up. Jim Carrey's secret hand signal, if you're curious. And then the ugly. It's going to get worse before it gets better. The archons are pushing society into destabilization. Eventually there's going to be like a harvest of our souls, but they want us to destroy ourselves so that they don't have to lift a finger. Basically, divide and conquer tactics. They're also making everything more expensive and creating a false sense of scarcity while they hoard all the necessities. And then they inundate us, or inundate our communal resources with more and more people until the whole system breaks. Basically, they're pushing us to the brink of destruction. And during this entire period of decadence and decay, they will be profiting off of our suffering. And then they will be eventually using people's pension funds and 401ks as their exit liquidity before they finally let the system crash, and with the stock market following along with it. And then they're going to eventually introduce a new system of currency, and they'll profit greatly off of that as well. Yeah. And then the neutral aspects, just a way to frame how the universe works, because I see a lot of people talking about good and evil, and good and evil is not necessarily, like, in my opinion, the right way to look at it, because basically the entities of this universe can be split into two groups when we think of a person's motive for their actions. Basically those who serve others, and then those who serve themselves. So service to others and service to self. Those are really how you split the categories of people and actions, because good and evil, that's relative. But people who are serving themselves, or people who are serving others, that is like an objective truth. Is somebody doing something for themselves, or is somebody doing something for the benefit of everybody else? You can more or less objectively see that. But yeah, I believe that this is the true distinction between a person's actions and an individual's polarity between service to others and service to self can be changed by their actions of free will. This means that people can and do change, and often people will fluctuate in between the two. Some people will be kind of in the middle ground, where some things they do for themselves, some things they do for others, and then a lot of times there's like a gray area between the two. Every decision we make is a conscious decision to help others or to help ourselves, but serving others is the ultimate form of love. Our life's culmination of these choices is, in my opinion, what decides our eternal fate. Basically the concept of going to heaven or hell. Although I'm at this point convinced that we're stuck in like a reincarnation samsara cycle where there's not really a heaven, not really a hell. It's more like we repeat this plane, more or less. But I do believe, in other words, karma is very real. And if you hurt others, then the universe will judge you accordingly eventually. Yeah, and that was like the big pictures and stuff like that. But the main objectives for like how to move forward and how to basically navigate these coming months and years as we're getting more and more news about how fucked everything is, and as we learn more about Epstein and the cabal, and as we fall more and more astray in our hope, moving forward, I think people should prioritize these goals, find Christ from within, start praying and practicing daily gratitude. Once you're grateful for your life and the things that you do have, you'll start not feeling as negative about the things that you don't have. And it'll like be a very mindful way to reprogram and rewire your brain. Because every thought that we have, if it's a negative thought, it makes us more negative. And if it's a positive thought, then it makes us more positive. So we can control more or less our fate, and our inner resonance. That's something that we need to be a lot more conscious about. Yeah, practice daily gratitude. Pray for everybody around you, including yourself. Yeah, that's just something I've started doing. Pray for yourself, pray for your family, pray for your neighbors, your friends, the people around you, your coworkers. Just start praying for everybody in general. Yeah. The more you start doing that stuff, and the more people start doing that as well, there's going to be like a power of squaring effect, where, or not squaring, but squaring, or the power of twos. I don't know. There's some kind of effect where the more something happens together, the more a thought like becomes collective, the more powerful it'll be. The more people repeat things to themselves, the more other people repeat that too, the better off we're going to be, especially if it's a positive thought, like we're going to make it, or love is the answer, stuff like that. Another major objective, eliminate your stress. I don't know how to do it, but everybody's life is going to be a little bit different. Your stressors and stuff like that. Find a way to eliminate as much stress as possible. Obviously, everybody's got bills to pay, jobs to go to, and everybody's got like family to worry about, friends to worry about, and there's going to be just a lot of different like stressors in our lives. But eliminating that stress by practicing gratitude and finding Christ and everything that we can do to possibly eliminate the stress, the better off we're going to be. Take a break, love yourself, take a nap if you need to. Yeah. And also understand that this realm is an illusion. This isn't the realest real, if that makes sense. And then also understand that so this is my belief, understand that before we were born, we chose this life. We more or less set up all the major like events that were going to happen. You chose this life. You asked for this. You set the difficulty setting on your life. I know that for me, whenever I play a video game, I always like playing on hard mode. And so that's why for this life, yeah, a lot of it's been fucking hard. And coming to that realization, it really put everything into focus again. But then we're going to go into miscellaneous helpful info, just because a lot of you guys are going to open yourselves up to these different rabbit holes, and I'm just going to try to save you a lot of time and effort. The QAnon, I'm very confident, is a psyop of its own sort. It has a lot of truth to it when it's talking about the cabal, and it's talking about the people who did harm and did do good. I believe that, yeah. But also look up Operation Trust from the Bolshevik Revolution, because it's very similar to what I see now with the QAnon PSYOP. Basically, the people who Q says are helping us out and who are working behind the scenes to put people in jail. Yeah, I don't know about that, dog. Yeah, because Q says that Trump's on the right side, and I don't know about that, dog. I know a grifter when I see one. He might have a lot of people fooled, and he might be better than the Democrats, but that don't mean he's a good guy. No, no, no. In my opinion, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. All the people who were fighting for the throne, all of them were shitbags who were only looking out for themselves. What we're seeing now is basically a shuffling of powers. All of the shitbags who were in charge and who were trying to be in charge and who were trying to gain power, there's just a shuffling on which one of them is going to be in power. But I guarantee you, all of them fucking suck, and none of them have our best interest at heart. Guarantee you. I ain't never going to trust any of them. No, no, no. Also, look up the Hegelian dialectic. I've talked about this before in previous streams, but basically the powers that be, the people who are shepherding us into the place where they want us to go, they give us both sides of the coin. So like a sheep, it's like putting a gate in front of us, telling us where to go. And we're being shepherded like sheep to the slaughter because they control both sides of the argument. So that's my spiel. Oh, man. Let me catch up on the chat real quick. Yeah, GME Prison Planet. I mean, it's a prison planet, but it's also a school. It's very complicated. It's very complicated. Everything has both good and bad. Everything's dualistic to a certain degree. Yeah. Jay, thank you. Yeah, the water slide, man, that shit was funny. I'm glad it didn't happen that way, though. Thank you to Ryan Cohen's buys. RC, baby. Yep, love is key. Vitamin G, gratitude. Yep. Exponential growth. It's the power of squares or something like that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the power of squares, multiplying a number by itself. Yeah, it's basically like this. But it eventually becomes like this. So if you have one person squaring himself, then it's just still him. But then you have two people, and then that overall power becomes 4. And so you go up to 16, boom, 256. I mean, more or less, this is what I believe is happening when it comes to when a large group of people begin to believe in some type of collective consciousness. That number, the more people you have adding to that power of it, this power of that thought or that idea, the more people you have, the more fucking powerful it is each time because it squares that power. Yeah. Yeah, and it is an exponential growth. Yeah, because look at that fucking chart. Yeah. Boom. But as soon as something becomes the collective consciousness, that is when it has the most power. So, yeah. Teddy Guard, what do you mean Judas Goat? Oh, I like the stock. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Yeah, Operation Trust, Bolshevik Revolution. Look at what happened in Russia, bro. World War One or World War Two. We're seeing a requel of it. We're seeing it. Let's look up the Judas Goat. What does that mean? Oh, yeah. I see. So the Judas goat is a trained animal used to lead other livestock, particularly sheep or cattle, to a specific destination. Yeah. Basically, you send the first one down and then the other ones will follow. Basically, what I've seen is that society uses celebrities as the Judas goat most often, where you basically pay some idiot to promote this product or this idea or something like that. And all of the other sheep following after them. So fucking annoying. Think for yourselves. Think for yourselves, please. Miles Moas, it's the candy con. What do you mean? Is that like a candy controller? Yeah, groupthink. Satchmo, what's new and what are you looking at for GME data wise? You're gonna have to go through the beginning of the stream, my man. This is basically the end of it. Yeah, all of the GME stuff was at the beginning here. Yeah, you'll have to catch up on there. Sorry, man. But thank you for coming to the stream. Better late than never, I guess. But that was pretty much it. I don't really know what else to go over. Let's check to see if anybody posted any questions in one of my other avenues. Nothing there that I can see. No, I think that's everything. Actually, let me just check to see if there were any comments. Oh, I think that was it. Let me just catch up on yeah, sorry, Satchmo, sorry, dude. Yeah, you caught the end of it, my man. But thank you for coming anyway. Yeah, Teddy Guard. Yeah, I gotta watch out. I gotta watch out. That's why I'm yeah. I see you. But everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for sitting through the stream. Everything was on the left side. And later today I'll have the bookmarks on the YouTube video for you to see. But I hope you have a blessed Sunday and a blessed week ahead. I don't know when next time I'll stream is. It might be next weekend or it might be 2 weeks from now. It depends how excited I get. Oh wait, there was another comment that I missed, I think. Oh, Rotund Calzone. If GME hits 69 this month, will you stream all day long? I have a feeling this second week, maybe even this first week of March. Oh wait, whoops. I have a feeling the second week of March, I'm going to stream for a lot of it. And then maybe even this first week of March, I'm going to stream for some of it. We'll have to wait and see. Because there's going to be some point where I'm just going to be too excited. Especially if this shit starts coming to fruition. Man, oh man. Yeah. But again, thank you everybody for joining. Have a blessed Sunday. This was about a 2 hour and like 15-minute-ish stream. Yeah, I think it's a good end here. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.